Hey guys, Ken and Chris here from CMX Powersports. We're going to do a little video today for you. We're going to do something just a little bit different than we usually do. We're going to actually run through two machines. I know we have three sitting here, but that's really only for entertainment purposes. I'm going to show you, this is actually my machine. I'm going to show you some of the accessories that I've installed on it so far. I think they're pretty cool. There's some more stuff to come, but we're also going to run through the stock machine as well as the ZFORCE 800 Trail. I think that's a really underrated unit on the market right now, and we'll tell you why. We'll be right back and we'll get into it. Okay guys, here we are at the front of the stock CFMOTO ZFORCE 950 Sport G2. For me, this is one of my favorite machines. It is exactly as it's titled. It's very sporty. It's very sleek and sexy. And in my neck of the woods where I ride in the mountains, and that's everywhere from, I guess, Montana, South Dakota, Crow's Nest, all those kinds of places. It's pretty much legal everywhere I go because it's a 60-inch stance. So I'm just going to go through some stuff. This is not new. This has been out for a little bit now, so there's lots of videos on it. I won't bore you with a bunch of specs. I always say in my videos that people, by the time they're watching, if it's been out for a while, they probably already know that. So I'm just going to show you some stuff that I like and I think was cool. And then Chris will go through the interior of the machine with you. And then I'm going to take you guys over to my machine and show you just some of the little things that I've added onto that that I think I'm really going to enjoy. I just bought it this year, so it's been a garage princess a little bit so far, but let's start here. So on the sport models, as you guys know, if you've been watching the videos and things like that on this, it's got over 12 inches of suspension travel in the front, over 12 inches in the rear. It works really well. I'm going to go through a little bit of setup on mine just to let you know what I've done there to improve it even more. But even on the stock unit, I think CFMOTO's done a really good job on that. On the CFORCE 1000 ATV, something that CFMOTO has started doing is making the radiator really accessible for the guys that are getting plugged up with mud or dirt or chaff or whatever it is. You can get all sorts of stuff in your radiator, cause you to overheat. So CFMOTO, the same as on the ATV, what they did was they made the front grille here easily removable. There's just 4 tabs. You pull it out, you have full access to your radiator to clean it when you're out on the trail or when you get home or wherever. I always tell people, usually the #1 reason if you're mud riding and trail riding for overheating is a dirty radiator. I don't know how many times people have come into the store, it's overheating. We wash probably an inch of mud out of the radiator or so, and then everything's fine. If it can't breathe, it can't cool. So just like on the ATV and just like on most of their stuff, the level that they've taken their game to is I think kind of in the premium series of side-by-sides. As you see it is as it comes right out of the box. There's nothing extra that we've put on this, and impressive to that point is that we get the winch, you know, the synthetic cable, the winch block, and this really nice heavy duty latch that they've got on the winch on the CFMOTOs. I really like that. I mean, the synthetic winch cable is kind of turned into the new way to go thing. It's less jammy when you're pulling somebody out, or when you're even pulling out in your own machine. It gives you a little slack, so it's not quite as jarring when you're dealing with that stuff. CFMOTO, as most people know, is kind of known for having the CST Stag tires on it. They are a radial, and as I've mentioned in my previous video, there's people with different opinions on these tires, but I've ridden these tires in all sorts of terrain. I've ridden them in snow, I've ridden them in mud, I've ridden them in rocks, dirt, anything that really the trail can throw at you in mountainous areas, because that's mainly where I ride. And I've been really impressed with them. Just wanted to let you guys know, because in our previous videos we've had questions now and then. Everybody always wants to know what's under this panel or under the hood, so I'm going to go ahead and cover that so we don't have to do a second video on it. The ZFORCE Sport, this is a really easily removable panel. You can see that I had it loose. It's really just two nubs that go into rubber grommets and a slider on the front. So underneath the hood here, we've got the radiator fill, we've got the coolant reservoir, we've got our 4-wheel disc brake reservoir. The CFMOTOs come with disc brakes on all 4 wheels. All the models do. They don't do the 3-wheel disc brake or anything like that, which I really appreciate. They work really well. And then on the sport model here, and I'm pretty sure on the trail model, they've also added the bus bar for adding extra accessories, and it's right there. It's easily accessible, and your winch block is under here. So it's really easy to access, really easy to get off, and really easy to put on, as you can see. You just place her and pop her down. Let's go around to the back or the side of the machine and we'll look at some other things. Okay guys, so here we are at the side of the machine. Something that stuck out a little bit for me that I really like is something that actually sticks out. It's the fender flares on the Sport. They widen out the stance. This is a 60-inch model, as I had mentioned. So in turn, they've widened out the fender flares. There's videos out there that guys are extending them even more because, you know, any machine you can get mud fly up and stuff. In the little bit of driving I've done on my personal unit, they do a pretty good job. I haven't been caked or covered, but again, I haven't been in some of the stuff that I've seen on YouTube just yet. So for me, I think they did a good job, and if nothing else, they made a really nice platform for guys to extend them out even more. I'm looking forward to the aftermarkets coming out with something that looks a little more sleek than, say, just kind of a cut up mud flap. So I think they did a good job there. They do have a little bit of rock protection included on the machine for when you're in the mountains and maybe you're in some side hilling and stuff. This is not a rock slider. That's a separate accessory that you can get, but I think it's cool that they put it there, as well as, you know, mentioning back to at the front of the vehicle, they've got a really nice bumper set up on it already. You can get extra protection, but for me, I feel like I'm probably not going to put the bumper on just because it already comes with it, and it's going to cover most of what I'm going to deal with out on the trail. When we look at the roofs are pretty standard on side-by-sides. Most guys have them. Not everybody has a rain lip right here. I've talked about this before, I think on the CFMOTO line actually, Chris, where, you know, we were out on different types of machines, and I had the roof lip coming straight down. It was raining and it was just piling into the cab and soaking us. This is not going to be a total solution, but it's definitely going to help with that. It's going to help with keeping that water off you, and it's going to dump it out beside you. CFMOTO, as you guys can see, comes with the side mirrors included from factory. A lot of people are concerned about side mirrors. Are they going to stand up? They're going to get ripped off in the mountains when I'm going through the bush. I can tell you, not just this specific unit, but I've driven the other CFMOTO units with this exact same style of mirror on it. And if you do get unfortunate enough to bang off of a tree or something like that, they bang in, they bang out. They're very durable. We've yet to rip one off, and they're super adjustable. I think there's like 4 or 5 clicks in here that you can go, and then you can adjust them up, down, sideways, back. They didn't cheap out on the mirror, I guess is my point. It's a good mirror. If you were to go buy a set of mirrors like that aftermarket, I'm going to guess you'd probably be well over $100. So, you know, they included. I think that was really good. Moving around to the back of the machine, kind of at the rear kind of side back of the machine, I want to point this out because the previous generation Z-Forces that were on the market, they had their air intake in between the 2 seats, and it faced back. And it was in the cab, and I think they thought they were doing something good on that first gen, but what ended up happening was it would get plugged up with grass clippings, chaff, things like that, and then it would starve your motor. So I was really happy to see them move their snorkels up. We're going to go through something on this that's kind of really cool, I think, in a moment when we get to my machine. But these snorkels for the CVT and air intake are nice and high. I mean, if you're in water up to here, you're in water up to here, so you probably should change your driving habit if that's the case. But on these, they also included a removable cover with a frog skin inside. So it's going to repel water, but it lets air in at the full rate that it needs to come in. So I think that was pretty cool. Moving around to the back, we're seeing a lot of things that we're kind of used to with CFMOTO now. A lot of the fit and finish, a lot of the attention to detail, the tightness of how everything fits. I think it's really cool on the Sport model that they include a full trunk. For me, that's really important. And I can show you guys on mine here in a minute. Yes, it's high enough for helmets because I know that question's going to come up. But you can put your cooler, your gear, your rain gear, your helmets, all the things you need in there, and it seals up really well. It's got an automotive style weather strip in the trunk. Seals up fantastically, I think. And they also still let you tie stuff down in the box here. There's 4 tie down points inside the box. If you don't want your little cooler shaking around and banging around, I know that's aggravating when you're on the trail. You hear all your stuff in your box. So you can strap it down in there as well if you like to. If you don't want to have the trunk box on, it's very easy. It's just these screws on the edge. You take, I think there's 6 of them, or maybe 8. They're just a hex screw, and then the whole thing pops off and you have just a wide open box. I prefer this though. It seals up really well and it's really nice. Attention to detail we're talking about. CFMOTO even puts their emblazes on the exhaust system here, this cool center exit exhaust. They even put their emblem on that. I've crawled around them underneath, of course, as I always do, guys. We got stainless steel exhaust system on this with really heavy duty springs that keep it all together. They keep it tight and right and not rattling and pinging and banging away. Something that you can't really see from the outside of the machine, but I can comment right now on, is we've got air vents right here. And the #1 complaint on side-by-sides is that they're so hot inside. Nobody on the market has cured that issue. You can get aftermarket fans and put them in there and blow air around and stuff, but CFMOTO has actually designed this machine so when you're driving down the road, the wind buffeting happens in a certain way and exits as much of that engine and belt heat out these back holes as they possibly can. As with most CFMOTOs, comes fully stocked with a hitch. This year on the sport models and the trail models, they did not include the trailer wiring. However, it is available. I want to comment on that, and Chris is going to show you in the cab, but they did include the signal lights and horn as always, so when you're in the US or wherever, you can drive this legally on the road. They've got a little bit different setup for rear suspension than just an A-arm. I think they called it a quad link rear A-arm setup or something like that, but you can see that the shocks are placed in front of the A-arms and the A-arms are curved. I can't really tell you guys why yet. What I can tell you is the ride compared to some other 60-inch, not all, some other 60-inch units that I've driven is better. So I'm not just sure how all of the science works to that, but to the seat, it feels great. I think that's about all I really have to say about the outside, guys. I'm not going to get into too many specs. I think we're sitting around 83 horsepower bone stock on this unit. I'm going to turn this over to Chris, and he's going to run you through where the air filter is and run you through the amenities on the inside of the machine and just show you guys some of that. One last thing I want to show you before Chris gets into the interior here is I just want to walk you around the side. A lot of people ask me how easy is it to service, where's the drain plug, where's the dipstick, all of that kind of questions will come up. The air filter's right behind the seat. Chris will probably show you that. I'll probably take the seat out. But the dipstick for your engine oil is right here. Nice and easy. Your engine oil filter access is right there as well. If you need more room, this little panel here just pops off. It's just to protect some of the things that are going on in there. So that's kind of really the run through of the machine itself. I'm going to tell you, I really like this engine. I love the feeling of it. Sport mode to work mode, or normal mode, I should say. Sorry, guys. There's a difference for sure. It's not like you're adding nitrous to it, but you're definitely getting a faster stab on the throttle and a faster response. So most of my riding, I'm pretty sure, is probably going to be in sport. Unless I'm in some real crawly technical stuff, I might put it in normal just to get a little smoother engagement. So yeah, Chris, we're going to turn it over to you now, and you can talk about some things on the inside, and then we'll go over to my unit, and then we'll talk about the 800 a little bit. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll see you guys in a minute.
Hey guys, so I'm sitting inside the ZFORCE 950 Sport. First thing I noticed when I'm sitting in here compared to their last model is you have a lot more room. I'm a taller guy. The last model, like, I'd always be hitting my knees on the dash. The door, they've contoured that now, so I've got a lot of room for my shoulder. I feel comfortable in here. Adjustable steering wheel, lots of leg room. It's fantastic. Now, like Ken mentioned, it's got the normal and sport switches here. You've got your four-wheel drive switch. You got your diff lock for your front on the same switch. You got the horn, hazard lights, and signal lights, just like all their other models. One thing they've added is this dash here. You've got your winch remote. It hooks in there, easy to access. They also added another glove box here. Lots of space to store things, easy to access. Passenger grab bar is adjustable, super easy to slide in and out to suit whoever's sitting there. Got your gear shift right here, easy to access. It's really smooth. Run you guys through the dash now. I'm going to turn the key on here. First thing you notice, which I think is great, they've added an LED strip that goes right along the dash. It looks awesome. It's super cool at night. Headlight controls right here. Forgot to run through that. Nice bright LED lights on this machine. One thing I like about this dash being mounted to the steering wheel is as you move it, it follows. You got all your warning light indicators, you've got your gear indicator, you've got your 4x4 indicator, you've got your fuel, your RPMs, and your speed. One more thing about the dash is it does integrate with the CFMOTO Ride app and your cell phone. So it's got a lot of great features that I'll get Ken to talk about because he owns and operates it. It's something that he really likes about his. Hey guys, I've got the passenger seat off. I just want to show you how easy it is CFMOTO's made to access your air filter. It's just behind this little panel here. Just a few clips. And you got this panel here that just sits there, clips right back on.
Okay guys, so Chris just showed you where the air filter is. This is just a picture with the seat in. I just wanted to show you kind of how easy it is to take the seat out to get to that air filter. Take your left hand, pull up on the handle, pull the seat out. It's that easy. Goes back in just as easily. I've actually seen guys pull these seats out on the trail and sit on them beside the machine. I'm not sure why I would just sit in the machine myself, but I've seen it happen. Yeah, incidentally, the driver's seat is not so. The driver's seat is adjustable front and rear, and to access behind and underneath that seat, which has your battery at the back and your ECU directly behind the seat, same kind of setup as this. You actually have 4 bolts to take out when you're doing that. So something that I do probably a yearly maintenance is just taking that seat out and making sure the battery housing and all that stuff is clean. But you can access the battery with your battery tender just through the crack in the back there, or you can slide it ahead and go around. So you can still access it, you just can't take it out without taking the seat out for the battery. Next, let's move over to my machine and we'll talk about just the few little accessories I've put on so far, and I'll just kind of explain. I've talked in previous videos, guys, about how easy the CFMOTO accessories go on the machines, because they design them to accept the accessories while they're designing the machine. It's not the other way around. They build the machine and go, oh well, how are we going to build this that it fits on there, and how is it going to work? So I'm going to show you just some of those little cool things on my machine in a little better light here that I think you guys will be impressed with. So I'll see you in a second and we'll hop over to mine. Chris, what do you think? Does mine look, I feel like mine looks quite a bit different than stock, yeah?
Absolutely.
And honestly, guys, I haven't done a whole bunch of stuff. I did some little diddling around in my garage because I had some time and I wanted to do that. So the first thing that sticks out, the biggest thing, and not the most expensive thing, but the biggest thing that I do on my side-by-sides is I really like these carnivore tires. I know a lot of guys out there in the market, they'll put 30s, they'll put 31s, they'll put big, huge. For my purposes, in my opinion, I went one size bigger than stock. So I went to a 28-inch carnivore. That's a radial tire. It handles really well. Of course, we carry them here at CMX. It handles really well for everything that I do personally. Everybody's got their own preference, but I like having the same size tire all the way around on my side-by-side. That way when my rear ones start to wear, because your rears always wear faster than your fronts, you can rotate them around, get a little more life out of them before you're buying 2 of them. As far as the stance, and I just think they look cool too. They work really well, but they look really cool. We do a lot of riding where we're in channels and we're in washouts that are shaped like this, and they're fairly deep. The Stag provides a good amount of traction on the side of the tire. for driving right in the center of those things. And as previously stated, I didn't change carnivores onto my quad. For some reason, it's just this thing in my head that I only do that on side-by-sides. I don't know why, it's just a thing. But I can tell you, the Stag on the stock machine will grab that V really well. However, the carnivore tire, because it's more of a square face, and it's got the tread that wraps around the side, and it wraps around farther on the sidewall of the tire, they grab those kinds of things even better. And they're just that much more planted in situations like that, where you're maybe in a V, or you're on a side hill, or you're in kind of a half a washout. They will track. And on my last side-by-side that I had, as I've mentioned, that was the previous generation Z-Force. I had these exact tires on it, and I could be riding, 3 inches down the sidewall in a big washout, and they stay exactly where I point them. So that's just a little advertisement for carnivore. I think that's just my choice of tires. Everybody out there's got a different opinion, so don't shoot me if you don't like them. So another thing that I want to talk about on side-by-sides and ATVs, I don't do a lot of high-speed road driving. So that being said, I need to take advantage of my suspension travel when I'm in the mountains, and I need to take advantage of all of it. So no different than my C-Force 1000 that I had, or my last Z-Force 800 Trail, and this one now. Every machine that I've ever owned, I've removed the sway bars. That's going to be something that you guys, that's all personal preference. It's something to get used to when you ride, because it feels totally different. Chris was out back with me, and I was educating Chris on the purpose that I do that. We took my machine when it was stock, and we have this ramp out back. It's fairly steep. It's for loading ATVs and side-by-sides and stuff into the back of cars, or into the back of trucks, not cars. Anyways, we got, I think, with the stock sway bar setup on it. And again, some guys take off just the front one, some guys take off just the rear, some just disconnect it so they can rehook it back up when they're going high-speed road driving. Me, I take them both right off. I can't be bothered to have them, because the benefit that you get. So that ramp is fairly steep. I would say that when you're on the top of that ramp, it's probably, well, it's tailgate. Yeah, it's tailgate height. Yeah. So it's like belt height. Yep. Yeah. Anyways, we had the stock sway bars on, and what I like to do is I come at it at an angle, and I put the front wheel on it, and I drive up the ramp until another wheel lifts. So I think with the sway bars on, I got about a quarter of the way up the ramp, and my rear wheel lifted. So the sway bars were doing their job. They were keeping it stable. However, if I was in the rocks and the mountains and things, I would have lost traction to that wheel. And Murphy's Law says that's the wheel that you need the traction at. You guys have all been in that situation when you're driving. You got the one wheel is spinning that you need, or not spinning that you need to spin, so you're cracking in diff lock. But if that wheel's off the ground, it doesn't really matter. So that's why I do it. It just keeps it literally like doubles the suspension travel, because after we took the sway bars off, which was not a long job on the Z-Force, it was very easy. We got, I think, probably 3/4 of the way or better up that ramp, and I have a picture somewhere, but she was just flexing.
Yeah, we could add them.
You got them. Yeah, we could add those pictures. But it literally was like one wheel's up here, one's down here. Same thing on the front. So that was my goal. I accomplished it. That's all up to you guys if you want to do it. So the next thing I want to talk about before we go into the interior and what I did there, now that I've rambled on about suspension and tires, is I just want to talk a little bit about the air intakes. As I said before, the air intakes are nice and high on the CFMOTO ZFORCE 950 Sport G2. My thing is I like to have them as high as possible, because we are in a lot of dusty conditions, and even with them up kind of on the side, my OCD kicks in, and I think, man, I could get it some even cleaner air. So what has CFMOTO done for us for that, and for the guys that are out mudding? They've created a full factory snorkel kit for the unit, which I think A, looks really cool, but B, is really functional. I've driven around with mine on it. It's kind of cool when it's idling. You can walk by it and you can hear it sucking its air where it gets its power from. It doesn't seem to be robbing power or anything like that in the driving that I've done around the dealership, but I just want to show you guys those snorkels here real quick. Okay guys, here we are at the back of the machine. I just wanted to show you this snorkel kit that's on mine. So it comes with an upper bracket that attaches to the roof. The marketing team's got pictures of where that's going to go for you. And then you drill a hole basically into this panel, and they connect directly to the factory snorkel that sticks up inside of here, which incidentally is a nice pliable rubber piece. The marketing team is also going to attach a picture of this panel before the snorkels are on. As I spoke to CFMOTO's quality of accessories and ease of installing, you guys will see that there's in those photos for this top bracket right here that screws to the roof, and those are nutted screws, so they go in both sides. You're not just screwing just into plastic. But on that roof, where every screw goes is a divot in the plastic, and there's also an outline for where the bracket sits. So you know exactly where to drill your holes. There's no guesswork, there's none of that garbage. Same thing on this panel. There's a little divot that shows you where to drill. Something that I also thought was really cool when I opened this snorkel kit, they give you the hole saw. So you literally just need a drill. It gives you where to drill the hole. They give you the hole saw that's the perfect size, and away you go. You pop your hole, you stick your snorkel kit in. There's a rubber gasket that goes in between the panel and the snorkel. I'm not sure if that's mainly for sealing it up or if that's just anti-rattle gasket. I think it's anti-rattle. One tip from Ken: when you install your snorkel kit and you set it down into your rubber inlet here, get yourself zip ties. They don't come with that. I got zip ties and I zip tied them tight so that they're like a complete seal. What I like about that is when I'm driving down the road, when you look at the position of these snorkels, where they sit, the dust and stuff probably isn't as much up there, but if it is, this little fin on the back of the roof and the way that the roof's shaped is pushing it kind of away from the hole instead of, you know, it sticking up right here or even here pulling air from the back. It's pulling air from probably the cleanest spot that the snorkels can. Plus, like I said before, I think they look really cool. If you guys want to come around to the back, I'm going to show you. I apologize. There's a little bit of dirt because it's my son's helmet and my helmet in here. That's all I have in here right now. But I just wanted to show you guys the helmet test. So on the CFMOTO trunk, I don't think we covered this. These latches are awesome. They're spring-loaded latches. They come down onto a nub. They're very easy to use. You're not stretching away on rubber things or anything like that. It's just very easy. When your lid comes up, it stays up. That's kind of nice. But as you guys can see, I got a couple helmets. That's my boys, and that is mine. Full-size helmets, and we've got more than enough clearance. As you can see, when you close your lid, you've got lots of room. You latch her down, your helmets are in, and they're not touching, and everything's good. Incidentally, that's going to fit the depth of cooler that I have perfectly. So come around to the back here. I want to show you one more thing that I've done. Okay guys, so here we are at the back. Something that I like about the CFMOTOs is they have the stainless steel exhaust system, and I really like the tip that the CFMOTO has on there. It looks really cool. I just feel like it's a little bit restrictive. It's fairly small in diameter. It's not overly small, but I am a fan of the whiskey bent tips on machines. I've got full spark arrestor and everything, so I'm still legal in the mountains. But I put the whiskey bent tips on my machines, not so much because they look as cool as the CFMOTO tip, but because you can kind of, if you were to be able to take the case off of that CFMOTO tip, you can stick the CFMOTO diameter right inside of this and it clunks around. So you just get a lot more airflow out of it. Guys are going to have different opinions on that. I like that it can breathe a little bit better, and I also like that it's a little more throaty sounding. Not that the Sport is not throaty sounding, but this just gives it a little lower, a little louder. Something that I prefer. Just thought I'd mention it. Okay guys, so another cool thing that I added to my side-by-side is I went ahead and put in the CFMOTO MB Quartz full audio system and touchscreen display. The neat thing about this, and the main reason that I did it, is it has Apple CarPlay. Apple CarPlay is important to me when I'm out on the trail because I can see my GPS. I get a little bonus, I guess, with being able to see what song is playing right there, but that wasn't the main reason that I put it in. The main reason was for the GPS. Now, as kind of the same as the U-Force, the U10 Highland Pro, you can have a split screen, or you can go ahead and you can have your full screen GPS, and anything that your app does that is compatible with CarPlay will work on here. So you can see this is where CMX is. This is our storage building. That's me. So you know, just a handy little thing to have when you're out on the trail. You can do a bunch of different things. You can mark your locations. You can go and track. You can do all sorts of stuff. Right now it's on the Onyx app. I can say that it also works with the Gia app and a few other things. Google Maps, it works with that kind of stuff. So that was the main reason I put it in, was so that I could track my stuff. It's pretty cool that it's touchscreen. You go through it just like your car menus, and anything that's compatible with Apple CarPlay will work on your screen. So I just thought that was really cool. Included as some other things. Okay, guys. So here's your home screen on the MB Court. There's some cool things. You can add cameras front and rear to the unit. If you're not plugged in with your phone link, which is basically CarPlay, if you're not plugged in, you can Bluetooth your music as well. Your phone calls and everything will show through this screen. I don't have the microphone installed because my plan is to put a microphone and headset inside of my helmet, and this will tell you also under your Bluetooth settings when your helmets are hooked up. I plan on using it to be the hub for my helmets between my wife and myself, and maybe my son is riding behind us and I want to communicate something that's ahead. I'm going to run that kind of through my in-dash system so that I can see everybody's hooked up, and if one helmet disappears, I know I either have a downed rider or I have something wrong with the Bluetooth system. So I'm just going to run through a couple of things really quickly on the screen here. There's some cool stuff. I think you know, it's a little bit expensive, guys. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. I think the system retails at $1,800 and you just get the front speakers. I would like to see the rear speakers included in that price. However, I figured if I'm gonna go ahead and do that, I'll just get them all. It's a little bit pricey, but what I can say about that when I'm talking, before I go farther in the screen, when I'm talking about it being a little bit pricey, I installed this myself. It was, for me in my garage, just playing around, it was about a 3-hour install, but the wiring harnesses in this are all really high quality. The way that it goes in was thought out and mapped out between MB and CFMOTO really well, so everything is just plug and play. Right under this panel is the main power harness for the unit. Everything was just really easy to install. You drill a couple of holes, and like I said before, everything is marked for you. So in here, you can add a subwoofer, you can have gain levels, you can go to your equalizer, and you can choose from a few, or you can make your own. That's kind of cool. You know, you can kind of make that custom, so to speak. You can choose your radio areas. You know, it'll give you a few countries. I don't know that that's really relevant. A radio is a radio to me. But I do kind of like the display. You can go through what you want it to be. You can have night mode, you can have day mode. I noticed that when this unit was sitting in my garage, right here, the moon, right at the top corner there, the moon was the one that was showing, and the background was a dark color. And now we're under these really bright LED lights in our shop, and the background's white and the display stuff is black. And I think it's nice that you can go ahead and see more when it automatically changes like that. You can change your wallpaper on this unit. Oh, so as you see, you can get a few choices of wallpapers. You can have like a starry night, you can have your unit, you can have a night kind of preview of your unit, and you can have solid colors. There's a little bit of texture there in the colors. I think it's neat that you can change it. You know, it's just one of those things. If you're going to do something like this, you should be able to change what the wallpaper is, right? So if we go up a little bit again, we can change the color of the LED right here. What's going on? This will go from, I think there's blue, green, purple, red. A few different color. I'm keeping it at blue because I want it to match the dash. If you had cameras set up, obviously you can set your time. If you had cameras set up, you can go in and change camera settings. You can get the information on this is really just your hardware version of your software version of your stereo itself. The other button I can't remember, so let's click it and see what it does. Okay, so this is just enabling and disabling things. So you want, I have CarPlay enabled, I've got Park enabled, I've got my beep menu enabled. If you hooked up other things on your auxiliary menus, you can enable them, such as your cameras, things like that. I've got my day-night setting on, and if for any reason you ever need to, you can do a full reset on this unit just to kind of get everything back to factory setting if you're thinking you've messed with a setting that you didn't want to. So then we're back to the home screen, and that's kind of a good run through on the unit. I will say that the housing that this is in, and this is a waterproof unit, so you can still get it muddy, you can still get it dirty. You want to kind of avoid it as much as possible and scratching your screen and stuff. But I will say what they did here with this, the mount and the pillar for this, they did a really good job. When I installed it, I thought, wow, it looks like it came from factory that way. It just looks really cool. Okay, guys, I forgot to tell you, I'm sorry, when I was going through the full TFT display here, I forgot to tell you, kind of show you where the power comes from that powers all the speakers in this thing. And I can say they sound really good. I was a little skeptical because they're side-by-side speakers, and I haven't had great experiences. I had a sound bar fall down on my head and a bunch of other things. I can say they sound really good, and these casings that they're in are super heavy duty. When you put these on, you have to take the roof off, of course, but just like everything else with CFMOTO, when you put these things in, they're solid. They're meant to be there. They're molded for the cage. We don't have a sound bar hanging here that the bracket's going to break and it's going to fall on your head while you're riding. That's a true story, by the way, happened to me and my son. But I wanted to show you where the power comes from to power the speakers. Amplifier is what I'm saying. And also where your CarPlay comes from, because you guys probably saw I didn't have a phone in my hand or anything like that. So to use the CarPlay in the side-by-side, they have you install a dual USB switch into your, or plug-in, sorry guys, rather, into your glove box. The top one is CarPlay, the bottom one is everything else, charging and whatever. The top one also charges your phone. You guys can see inside of here that there's a plexiglass with holes in it. I actually built that myself because directly below that, I don't know if you can see there guys or not, but directly below that is where the amplifier sits and the wiring hookups for the amplifiers that I have zip tied against the back wall of the glove box here. I'm sorry my plexiglass isn't as pretty as it could be, but when I put the amplifier in where they wanted it and I put the wires there, I thought, well, now I can't use my glove box. I had an old piece of plexiglass sitting in the garage. I traced it out, cut it out, put some holes in it so that the amplifier could breathe. And now, as you can see, I can use my glove box again and I don't have to worry about it. So there's something you guys can do because the ledges are there for it to sit on. It just doesn't come with the kit. So if you want to, you can build your own. Okay guys, here we are back at the cockpit of my ZForce 950 Sport. I think I forgot to mention how nice these doors are. They're a full half door, not a quarter door. You can see how easy that closes. They've really done a good job with that and followed it up with a nice weather strip. I know there's other guys that have mentioned that out there in YouTube land. Nice weather strip, goes all the way around, keeps that much more mud and things out. So in Canada, probably one of the first things that I noticed on this rig was I don't have an e-brake right here. And for me, I've experienced the problem of putting a unit in park. It wasn't me personally, it was one of the riders we were with, but putting a unit in park on a hill and then being stuck in park. Us having to winch and we're down underneath trying to get it out of park with a stick and whatever else. So if I was to pick one thing that I think CFMOTO should have done, that's it. They should have put an e-brake in this thing. Not just for being able to get it in and out of park on hills, but for safety. When we're out riding, sometimes you have to stop and get out of your unit on a steeper hill. Maybe somebody's in trouble, maybe something like that's going on and you need to get out of your unit. So in the US, I saw some posts. There was an e-brake recall. They would install an e-brake into the unit for you. In Canada, there's a service if present recall. They're changing the shift fork in the transmission to make it easier to get out of park in the event that you're on a reasonable incline. To me, that doesn't work. I've shared it. Hopefully it's going to change, but that's one thing. I had a guy on one of our previous videos ask me, is there anything you don't like? That I didn't like, but I cured it for 60 bucks. So if you look down at my brake pedal here, there's a red apparatus there with a spring on it, and it is literally called a spring brake thingy. This company, I think, is a privately owned company. They've designed this to alleviate the problem of side-by-side units without e-brakes, because a lot of them don't have it, and I think every one of them should. So it's as simple as a bracket that goes onto the brake pedal and a bracket that mounts to the firewall. When you want to set your e-brake, you push your pedal down, you move that over, and all 4 of your disc brakes are now engaged. When it's time to leave and go riding again, give her a click and away you go. I think Spring Brake Thingy did a great job on that, so thank you guys. Okay guys, I know I'm going to get the comment in the video or the question. This is where they tell you to put the antenna. As you can see, when you have it straight up, it kind of doesn't match the angle of the cage, so I just kind of keep it like that. It works okay. But how you get this here, that's going to be the question. It's very easy. There's a few screws that come out of the body panel. You take the whole fender off, and they supply you with the drill bit to do it in the kit. You drill 2 little holes, and away you go. Your antenna is installed, and you just follow the instructions and route it where they tell you to route it. While we're here, you're going to see that I have a half windshield on. Forgot to mention that. This is like no install time. The clips are here, they clip against the cage, they're made to do it just like that. You put them in, you tighten it up, and you're done. It's a 5-minute job. Keeps the wind off you, keeps a little bit of dust out of your cab. So I'd suggest that as well. Also fits great. Next, we're gonna move into the 800 trail. Just give you guys a couple little things on that. We don't have too much more than we've already covered because it is a very similar machine. Okay guys, here we are at the trail. I think that this is a really underrated machine on the market. The trail, incidentally, just so you guys know, comes in an 800 and a 950. I've driven them both. As I said, I had the previous generation 800 trail. I can tell you that this one rides a lot better. It's very hard to get a good riding 50-inch side-by-side, which by the way is what class we're in here, so you can go everywhere you can go with your ATVs. Chris, what was the suspension travel on this again?
10 in the front, 12 in the back.
That is substantially more travel than the previous gen, the first gen 800 trail. I actually ended up putting Elka suspension on my first gen because I was just so displeased with the ride. This guy here, I've driven it. I've driven this one and the 950. It's a completely different ride than the first gen. This thing is buttery compared to that first gen. They've changed the setups of the shocks, they've changed the spring rates, and they've changed the travel, all equating to a way better ride. If you want it even smoother, as we talked about on my unit, take off your sway bars. I mean, even just on flat stuff, your unit will ride smoother because you don't have the wheels tied together, so you're not hindering them there. The 800 engine has received some refinements and improvements for the 24-25 or Gen 2, let's say, model year. It's got a little more horsepower than the first gen. What was the horsepower again, Chris?
53 horsepower.
53, so very respectable for a lighter, smaller machine. Obviously the 950, when you stab the throttle, is a little more exciting, but this one will get you excited too. It's not a slouch at 53 horsepower. A lot of the other features and benefits on this machine are exactly the same as what we've discussed on the Sport. You get a little bit smaller tire on this unit. Okay, so a lot of the features on this machine, guys, are pretty much exactly the same as the Sport. For example, the curved doors giving you, as Chris talked about, more shoulder room, more leg room. The cab is, when you're sitting in it, it feels exactly the same. There's just as much room because it's the same cab. We're narrower, we're 50 inches. So the fender flares are about, what would we say, Chris, half the size of the Sports?
Oh, about that, yeah.
Because they don't need to be wider. I'm actually looking at it. The tires are tucked right in. The tires on the trail are 1 inch smaller than the stock tires on the Sport. So rather than a 27-inch Stag, you're getting a 26-inch O-bore. When you look at the rear, you can see what's missing right here. The trail doesn't come with the trunk. I think the 950 might, but we'd have to look. Don't quote me on that, guys. I think the 950 trail might come with that trunk. We're gonna have to check that out though. But as stated before, you know, as you see it as it comes with the winch, it comes with all the cool stuff that we've already talked about. It comes with this, the really bright, big display that's got all the information you need. So that's kind of a summary of the 800 trail, guys. Like I said, the 950 and the 800, I've driven them both. And again, just a completely different ride than the previous generation. Kind of surprising to me how smooth it was. I was fortunate enough to do it before all the snow was on the ground. Okay guys, we went through a lot of stuff here for you today on the ZForce Sport and the Trail. If you guys have any questions, as always, leave them in the comment section. We'll do the best we can to answer everybody. If you have any further video footage that you'd like to see run on these, other than the rides, just because we have so much snow out here still, and we only really have during business hours to do it right now, but by all means leave it, and we'll get some footage for you as soon as we can. There is going to be some footage on these units in our province and in other provinces coming this summer, actually on trail rides. So I'm looking forward to doing that. We're going to have some big staff stuff that we're doing. But in closing, I appreciate everybody's time. Make sure to like our videos and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. Until then, we're going for lunch.
Yeah.
Take care.